Lost in thought, Deculein considered the seriousness of the news. Emperor Krabaim, known for his kind and calm nature, had always worked to balance divine and imperial power, avoiding conflict with the Bloodshrouds. But the real problem was the new king, crowned after Krabaim's death, a person who would become the most significant and challenging figure in the land. Deculein knew this successor was Sofiane Yekatere, August von Gibrine, and he believed her rise would soon bring major changes to the world. As dawn broke, weary students stumbled out, tears streaming down their eyes, shadowed by dark circles, as if raising white flags after a brutal battle. Deculein's infamous marathon exam for the Understanding Pure Elemental Magic midterm had pushed them to their limits, with many dropping out along the way. Yet the test clearly separated the weaker from the stronger students. Regardless of their scores, proud, introspective, those who finished wore their survival like a badge of pride. Instead of celebrating their freedom when the exam ended, they quietly reflected on the lessons they'd gained, a reaction that sparked curiosity far and wide. Even the Magic Tower's professors were intrigued, itching to see the legendary exam questions for themselves. At that moment, only 2 students remained, locked in a struggle with the final hurdle. Question number 8. In the lit confines of Epherene's exam room, she hunched over her desk, grappling with the final challenge. Muttering to herself, frustrated, muttering, she cursed the 8th question as the ultimate hurdle but vowed to conquer it, fueled by the copious amounts of coffee she'd consumed. Looking like a zombie, she pushed herself to focus. Suddenly, her pencil stopped as a spark of understanding hit her. In the hallway, Assistant Professor Alan and Deculein felt a rush of magical energy. Alan called out to Deculein, who nodded, certain one of the students had cracked the final question. In his mind, he knew it was her. Stepping into the room and closing the door, Deculein, I knew you'd solve it, he said warmly, congratulating her. Sylvia turned, tears in her eyes, standing in a room transformed by her magic. The walls and ceiling bloomed with cypress trees and golden wheat fields, while a gentle breeze and twinkling starlight swirled above like a scene from Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night. Deculein stood in awe. The vivid colors woven with magic glowed with warmth despite their cool blue tones. The stars sparkled with hope in the dark, both fiery and sharp, a true work of art. He gathered some of the magical energy in his hand. Though he'd written the questions, he couldn't manifest such beauty due to his own limitations. In his heart, he felt the spirit of Kim Woojin, a man who had dreamed of becoming an artist but lacked the talent, was woven into this question. Kim Woojin had yearned to evoke emotion through his art, and this question, fused with Deculein's own aesthetic sense skill, fulfilled that dream. Both Deculein, who cherished beauty, and Kim Woojin, who aspired to art school, found solace in this moment. Turning to Sylvia, Deculein praised her work and thanked her before leaving the room. Sylvia, stunned by his unexpected gratitude, stared at the door. She whispered that she too wanted to thank him, touching the magical elements in awe of their beauty. As she stood surrounded by glowing light, soft breezes, and vibrant colors, memories flooded back. People urging her to become an archmage, praising her talent and tying her potential to her family's legacy of archmages. Yet Sylvia rejected those expectations, declaring that magic itself was inherently beautiful. A single tear, held back since her mother's death, fell as she stood immersed in the enchanting display. In the quiet of Epherene's exam room, Assistant Professor Allen opened the door and called out, "Time's up, Epherene." Epherene, head bowed, looked up with a strained smile, expressing regret that it was a shame she couldn't finish. Allen stepped inside to collect her exam paper, commending her effort and noting that only 2 students had persisted with the final question until the end. Handing over her paper, Epherene asked if Sylvia had answered all the questions. Allen nodded, and Epherene let out a heavy sigh. She's a monster. I'm jealous. But as she sat there, thoughts of recommendation letters and stepping on Deculein vanished. All she felt was a burning curiosity and a hunger to learn. She wanted to solve every question, just like Sylvia. Epherene declared that while the exam was over, the question remained. Allen looked puzzled. She vowed to solve it. With a playful smile, Allen smiled warmly, wishing her luck and saying he'd root for her. Epherene responded with an enthusiastic shout, affirming her determination. As dusk fell over the academy, Epherene trudged across the grounds, her shoulders heavy from the grueling exam. She mumbled about her exhaustion, wishing she'd answered every question to feel that sense of pride. Instead, she faced returning to her graffiti-covered door and cold bed. Lost in thought, she didn't notice 3 figures ahead until Julia's cheerful voice rang out. "Effie!" Epherene's head snapped up and she saw her friends. Julia flashed a peace sign, shouting, "Ta-da!" and declared it was tradition to unwind together after exams, suggesting they go eat something delicious. Epherene's eyes filled with tears as she called Julia's name, her heart swelling. Since her father's death, she had felt lonely, with no one to care for her. Julia, catching her expression, teased that Epherene looked silly and asked if the test was that tough. Then, turning to the group, Julia declared that since Epherene was the reason they were out so late, she'd be paying for the meal. Epherene, flustered at the thought of spending her meager funds, stammered that she hadn't agreed to that, protesting as Julia teased her further.